Welcome back to Two Trees in a Pod with Alyssa and Sam, where we talk about all things life and relationships and tie it all back to faith. I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Sam.
And today we are excited to talk about finding your church home, building your community, and our experiences with this. Let's get into it. So, how are we doing today? Let's just start there. A little warm up. How are you, Sam?
Oh, doing well. We just got back up to New Hampshire and we're finally able to relax a little bit. We had a long 7+ hour car ride after spending the holidays with your family, and that was fantastic as always, but we were definitely glad to be home under our apartment roof.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of cleanup, organizing work today, so this is a nice little break from that. I'm pretty excited that we're on a weekly schedule now. We're going to be releasing this episode on Tuesday, so happy Tuesday. And yeah, so we did a big 3-episode series launch day, and that was super exciting. But from now on, we're going to be doing 1 episode a week. So also, thank you for all of the support that we received from launch day and from launch week. It was super rewarding and exciting to hear everybody's thoughts and criticisms, and it was super helpful. So keep up the feedback. We love it. So today we're actually going to be talking a little bit about community, because this is something that I've always personally desired, is to have a stronger community, and I know Sam has too. And so Sam, what would you say is like the importance of community?
I definitely think you can look at community through a few different lenses. I mean, back in college, I had my friend group, just, who I'd hang out with, who I'd watch the sports games with, or I'd have my track community, or I'd have the kids who I went to class with. And there were all of these different segmented communities, and I felt like I was part of these all different groups. And everyone was kind of on their own path and their own track in life. And something that really has been kind of different with community is finding these kind of church communities. It's different than these other communities in the sense that you're not all bonding over a common topic or event that's going on, but you're bonding over your experiences and how you connect with God.
Yeah, and I think like what you mentioned with all those communities you had in college, coming out of college, you don't have that day-to-day interaction with people all the time unless you're at work, but maybe you work remotely and you live alone, or you live with 1 or 2 roommates who work in person. But coming out of college, or even sometimes in college, you might feel this way, life can be a little lonely if you don't focus on having that community and strengthening it. And I think this can be a little like, they can get worse because of social media, and you see, oh my gosh, all these people are doing things with their friends and I'm just sitting at home, when in reality, that might be the first time they left their house in like a month. So I think FOMO is a big problem that is overemphasized because of social media, and the trap of comparison is real too, because you compare everybody else's community and other aspects of their life to your own, and it might make you feel less than. I know I've felt that before.
I think social media is definitely a great tool to keep in touch with everyone, to know what's going on in everyone's lives, and there's a ton of benefits from it. But it also does make it harder to focus on your own life at some points. When you have, social media and you're very intertwined with it in part of your everyday life, your life starts to become the experiences of others, and you're not really focused on what's going on. Your entertainment, your day-to-day becomes other people's lives. And when it becomes other people's lives, it can distract you from a lot of different things. And it's difficult to balance everyone else's life along with your own life.
It's definitely a blessing and a curse, because you're able to stay in contact with people from all over the world, extended family who may not live close to you, friends. But the curse part is obviously the FOMO and the fact that sometimes it does seem to replace that face-to-face human connection, which we still need. We're human beings. We still need to be with people. So, yeah, on that note, I think let's get into the meat of the episode. So we're going to kind of start talking about the need for community and what's going on there. Like, why we actually have to have community. It's not just a want, it's a need. So we all know life can be pretty hard, but there's a lot of awesome moments as well. And we are inherently social creatures. I call myself an introvert a lot of the time. I'm the first to leave the party. By people who know me well that are listening to this know that I'm known for Irish exiting, which is just leaving and not telling anybody where I've gone and saying goodbye. But I still feel so incredibly refreshed after hanging around the right community, the right group of people. And as someone who considers themselves to be an introvert, it's interesting that like social doses and communities still refresh me. Sam, you're an extrovert, I would say.
And I would say that you're also an extrovert, and everyone else around you and that knows you will agree that you're an extrovert.
An extrovert with a tendency to Irish exit.
When she is at a party for the 6th hour and she gets a little tired, she considers that as her being an introvert, but anyone around us knows that she is just as, if not more, outgoing than myself. But anyways, looking towards that kind of community that refreshes you and gives you that outlet you need, having a church home or a consistent community that you know you can rely on week in and week out, it gives you that strong support system, a strong sense of belonging, and it really helps you get through, a lot of people have a lot on their mind and nobody to share it with. They're stuck and wrestle with their own thoughts. And while you have these conversations with God and you talk back and forth, that still doesn't replace that human connection that you need to have. You need to be able to talk with other people, hear their perspectives, and it helps in just invaluable ways. And, most important part is just that support system of community. Alyssa, how has your support system just changed since we moved up here to New Hampshire?
Well, I don't really think I had a support system out of you, my family, and my volleyball teammates before moving here. And obviously those are great support systems, but I didn't really have that prayer community, I'd say. I've got some Christian friends and I've got like my family, they're all good Christian people. And but I think it was different once we started going to church together because it wasn't just like a once in a while type of thing. It was a consistent thing that every Sunday I was looking forward to. And we started to get to know people a little bit at the church we were going to in Rhode Island. But then once we moved here and we committed to a church, I feel like I know like the whole church. And it's been, I obviously don't, but it's been a couple months of us living here since July is when we really started living here full time. And I feel like I walk in, I'm smiling at all these people who I recognize and they're saying hi. And when you shake hands at the sign of the peace, it's like, you're not shaking hands with a stranger. You're shaking hands with somebody who you share these spiritual experiences with every single week. And during volleyball season, I can't go every Sunday because of games, but it still was laying this foundation of community that expanded into more. And you might be listening to this and thinking like, okay, but my life is going great right now. Why would I even need community? Like there's nothing wrong with my life. So Sam, what do you have to say about that?
Well, then there's always something to work on, something to improve at. You can think everything's going great right now, but I'm sure you can think of other times in your life where everything was going well, and then things might have taken a turn for the worse, and then it wasn't going as well.
Unexpectedly too, yeah.
Exactly. So if things are all going great right now, that's fantastic. You should keep up whatever you're doing. If life is great, make sure it stays great. But for when those times do come where you could feel lonely or you could feel, out of the loop, you could feel away from other people without some sort of community, us both being in our early 20s, it's kind of a time in our life where all of our friends are moving to different locations. I mean, we moved up to New Hampshire and we knew nobody up here. But when you build these stronger connections, you'd have people to rely on. And if you can build that network and all these friends, all these people who genuinely care about you, your future, and what you're doing, and you feel the same about them, that kind of community, it breaks those boundaries of location. It's people that you talk to when you're not around. It's people that you feel close to, both, as a friendship and as, someone as you want them to succeed because you genuinely care about this person.
And I think on like a deeper, more spiritual level, like you can look to Romans, which excellent book of the Bible, especially about touches on community a lot. Paul says in Romans 1:11-12, I long to see you so that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to make you strong. That is, that you and I may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. This verse is telling us that God wants us to grow and nurture each other's faith so that we can become closer to him and become more spiritually mature through these relationships with other people. Because I can't even tell you how much I've learned from people in our community, just from, not even just from conversation, but from observation alone, by seeing how other people live their lives, or seeing how they go about decision making, or just watching Sam interact with people at our community meetings and our church events. And it's been so incredible because I do feel like our faith is being sharpened by our relationships with other people. And it's just super exciting. And I know I talked a little bit about my before and after community. Well, I would say before and during, because there's no real after community. But Sam, do you want to compare what your life has been before and during community experiences?
So I always thought I had community because I had a lot of hobbies, I had a lot of interests, I had a lot of people who were kind of around me that I'd consider friends that were doing the same things I was doing. But that was all, and it's just a back and forth kind of relationship. Oh, have you seen what happened here? It's not that these are bad friendships. Honestly, a lot of them are still my closest friends. But there's kind of this missing part of, there's something more. What are you truly trying to do, truly trying to get to? And I think something like church, where there are all different people at all different stages of life, and there's not this kind of barrier of who you are, where you come from, what do you do? Because you can be really close with, say, coworkers at work, but, they could be your manager, they could be your supervisor. There's this barrier between you that, through no fault, you can't break that because it's a different environment.
There's hierarchy.
Exactly. But when in church, you could talk with the pastor after the sermon, and there is no hierarchy because you were talking directly to them as another person on the same kind of path that you are. And something like that is just so different than the kind of everyday relationships that you'd find outside.
Brother in Christ to brother in Christ. It's not brother in Christ to leader of the church. It's just, you guys are on the same level. While you might be on different spiritual paths or life journeys, we are all the same under God. Like, we all have the same amount of authority per se. So it's a little different from, like we said, work with the hierarchies and stuff like that. So it talks a lot about the benefits of having a church home and finding a community, but how do you actually get up, go out, and find a church home?
You find the church home by going to church. Then you're never going to find the church home unless you go explore. Having still be quite new to faith, going to church, I just started going this last year. The first one we went to, I just felt uncomfortable. It was just a weird kind of environment. I didn't understand what was going on. It just felt weird. And we didn't go back. And unfortunately, it took a lot longer to go back. It took us at least a few months. And then Alyssa's like, okay, well, that one clearly wasn't a hit. And she wasn't, she didn't really enjoy it as much either. She's like, oh, I've been to much better services. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we could try somewhere else. And then we did. And that place that we went to down on Rhode Island, it really resonated. And while I was still kind of uncomfortable, I didn't really understand all that was going on. I just felt like a much better fit. And there's no checklist of things that is going to confirm whether or not it's the right church for you, but you need to just go in, sit down, listen, participate or not, just sit there and listen. I didn't sing the first few months because I just felt uncomfortable and weird. I didn't know the songs. I didn't know the environment. So I kind of just stood there. I'm like, is everyone looking at me? This is just weird. But that's not the case. So it's really important to find that church home, but you're also never going to find it if you never try and go to church.
I think it's interesting what you said about the checklist, because I'm someone who identifies as like a non-denominational Christian. Like, I'm not Protestant, Lutheran. Like, I use the label non-denominational. And typically I've gone to non-denominational churches in the past, but the church that we ended up adoring in Rhode Island was a Baptist church. And I think that's kind of interesting because, like, I was a little apprehensive going to it because, well, you know, every little denomination has their own little stigmas. And I'm so used and set in my ways to the non-denominational experience, which is, you know, its own thing. And the church that didn't work for us in Rhode Island was a non-denominational church. But the church that we found to be our home was segmented into a denomination. And I think that I probably should have gone into it with more of an open mind because it was a really great experience there. So that was super rewarding. And I think it's a good example of why the checklist doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah.
In that case.
Trying to formulate your opinions on other people's experiences, other people's ideas, or preconceived notions. You'll never truly be able to develop your own ideas or your own mindset towards something unless you're the one who experiences it and goes through it. So I had all my, preconceived notions about church. I had my own thoughts, and a lot of them were confirmed on that first visit. I'm like, I don't like this. This isn't for me. But I knew that it was something that was important to Alyssa. I knew it was something that, maybe I could see being a part of my life. So I tried again. And when you know the right fit, you'll know it's the right fit.
When you know, you know. It's like relationships.
So you can't just fake it. You can't just say, I think I can try and like this. I felt uncomfortable that first time we went there, but it just felt like somewhere I needed to be. It felt like a community that I wanted to be a part of.
And this took us months. This wasn't like, okay, we're going to wake up on Sunday and we're going to hit 5 churches and see which church is right for us. There was really no rush for it. It was just, okay, I guess we could try this one. I think actually my dad is the one who pointed us to trying the one that we ended up going with because we had driven past it when he was visiting. He was like, that one looks good. We were like, no, whatever. Nah. It took us months after that to actually go.
You were saying that. I was sitting there keeping my mouth shut. I'm like, I'm not going to go to church unless I'm forced to.
Yeah.
It's Easter. Alyssa's forcing me to go to church with her, and I'll just appease her. Well, that changed rather quickly, and now we are at church every Sunday to Bible study every Monday and have a podcast on religion. So.
How much can change in a year, right?
Exactly. It hasn't even been a year.
I think understanding that there's really no hurry to finding the perfect church because, again, you're not going to find the perfect church, but finding the church that is perfect for you and perfect for your life and how you feel when you're there, there's no rush because you're not on your own timing. You're on God's timing, and God will place you where you're meant to be. And it's also worth noting that if a church doesn't feel right for you or just isn't for you for whatever reason, it's not blasphemy. It's okay to not enjoy a certain church experience. I did not enjoy that non-denominational church experience up in Rhode Island, but the non-denominational church that I go to in Philadelphia when I'm visiting my family, I love it. So it's not, oh gosh, you're sinning because you don't like this one church. There's a reason there's so many different churches. It's because they really cater to individuals or individual groups of people. And this means, really good news, that there's a church out there for you. If you're struggling and you haven't found one yet, it just means you haven't found it yet, and God's got it for you somewhere. But if you do have your church home already and you feel pretty good about it, definitely keep that up. Because it is it's not hard, but it is a little bit of a process to find one that really feels like your soul home. So I think going from here, after we understand that we're not going to find the perfect anything, in terms of churches, because only God is perfect, and we're not going to find perfect on earth. Let's talk a little bit more about community specifically and how that comes out of having a church home, because having a church home is really the first step to unlocking this faith community in your life.
So we found it up here. I think it was actually one of your teammates that had mentioned that the church up here was where her and some of your other teammates went. And it was funny because they didn't even go those first days. We just showed up on our own. And it was nice. It was a good sermon. We're like, okay, we'll go back there. And then next time we met more people, during one of those conversations, we met some of the elders at the church. And out of nowhere, I made a new friend at my first or second church session. And within the same day, I was playing pickleball with him and his wife in the same day. So we came up here to New Hampshire with no connections. Alice had her volleyball team, but I had known nobody up here. And after going to church, not only did I feel like I had met and made some new friends, but now I was actually doing things with them outside of church, getting to know them as people and building these relationships. And through that, they showed us that, hey, there's this Bible study on Mondays. Well, I'd never even gone to a Bible study in my life. I just started going to church. A lot of this was moving really fast. I had no idea what was going on. Alyssa's the religion expert. I decided to wherever she'd want to go. Sure, I'll just tag along. I'll see how things go. And we go to the Bible study every Monday night, and now we just have such a core group of people that we look forward to talking to every week, during the week, just friends that we know we can chat with if we have something on our mind. It's something that can't really be compared to any other community because you're not talking about a topic. You're talking about your life, your experiences, and somebody else who's going through the same things or different things. And it's just a nice place to be open and comfortable with other people.
It was really nice that my teammates invited me, and then I was like, can Sam come? Because it was kind of a university thing, but they're pretty open about who can come. So it was really nice that they're so like, that's just why I love this community, is that they're really accepting of everybody coming in, and you don't even have to be a UNH student to come to the student Bible study, which is super, super awesome. Like there's a whole bunch of people in there who aren't even students at all. And I think that just adds to the whole like diversity of the community and different people who you can relate to and different people who you can grow your faith with. And what have you, Sam, learned from, because you haven't ever done a small group before, and this is stemming out of our church, and I've done a small group in the past with primarily like people in their 40s and 50s, which is awesome. I love that small group. But it definitely is different talking to people my age. And what have you learned, Sam, from never having that type of experience to now having this consistent community every Monday? You've made friends.
It's definitely a lot different. So I'm one of the older people there because it is.
Aside from the elders.
Aside from the elders, it's a lot of students on campus. So they're, mostly 18 to 22. And I just turned 25. So I am very old now, but I had gone through a lot of what they're going through when I was going through college, and I hear what they talk about and kind of their life experiences. And, it's definitely a different environment, but it's just so helpful and beneficial knowing that, okay, well, I can reassure them whatever they're going through. If I went through that, I share my experience, how I kind of handled things. And I feel like a lot of them are doing way better than I was doing at the time because they're at these Bible studies while they're in college and they're talking about these things and how they can do things the right way. And I was not on that path at that time. So I can definitely be like, hey, here I am at a Bible study with you guys and I feel like I'm doing great. You guys are doing phenomenal. And that's not to try and compare people's lives, but it's like, I think I can.
Because they don't feel like they're doing phenomenal, It's like, oh, I'm human, I'm broken, I'm a sinner. And then Sam's sitting there like, you guys are doing way better than I was doing at this age. And you're like, wow, I'm a sinner. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's like, don't worry, we all are. It's okay.
Yeah, in our own special ways. I think what I've personally learned from our small group is the beauty of praying for others and with others. My prayer life before small group was definitely more like self-centered, not in like a selfish way, but in like I'm going to pray for my family. I'm going to pray for my life. I'm going to thank God for my blessings. But it wasn't community based. And the small group, like, you're praying in front of other people, you're praying with people. And I feel like it's gotten me a lot more comfortable with the idea of just praying over another Christian, because I was a little prayer shy before. AIV is what our group is called. And I was a little prayer shy before that. And I think I'm really grateful for this experience, because the Bible literally tells us to pray together. The Bible tells us in Matthew 18:20, "For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them." That's Jesus speaking, talking about gathering together in his name and that he is there. And I have just felt that ring true at AIV. Like, I come out of those meetings and I feel like alive in Christ.
It really does kind of set the momentum for the week. We start with church on Sunday and then Bible study Monday night. And it's like, okay, well, the first 2 days of our week were so faith-based. We're in that mindset for the week. And I feel like we're on a really good path with our decisions and kind of just how we go about our day-to-day lives after that.
Yeah, and then Tuesday, we're like, okay, no, Jesus. And then Wednesday, I get to go, because Sam can't wake up at this time, but I go to prayer in the morning with a few other students. And I feel like that Wednesday is like my favorite day of the week, because after praying with everybody just for like 30 minutes, I feel like a new person for the rest of the day. And so, like, I think the point of this is talking about extending church beyond church, because church doesn't have to end with a 1-hour service on Sunday morning. Church can go throughout your entire week, and it doesn't even have to be in the format of like a formal prayer group or a formal Bible study group. You can literally just sit down with a couple friends, or FaceTime them, or even call your mom or your dad or any Christian in your life that you know who you want to be in better community with. So I think that's kind of the importance of community. And I would say my mental health, I don't know about you, Sam, but my mental health since being like directly involved with small group and with prayer group has like never been better.
Yeah, I've kind of just lived at a much more graceful peace. I know that, okay, whatever's going on, turn it to God. It'll be okay. And if I'm not feeling, the most comfortable, it's like, great, well, now I have a giant community of people I can talk to and reason things out with who can point me in the right direction.
Which is funny, because your nickname at small group is Shalom, which is like heavenly peace. So because you seem to be the most peaceful person in the room at all times because of your demeanor.
I am a pretty relaxed person. That is true.
Okay, Shalom. So I think in closing, this is definitely a bit of a shorter episode, but the main idea here is we are human beings who are social creatures that absolutely need community. Finding a church home could come easy to you, as if you might already have one, but it can be a little difficult and take some research as well. And the Bible strictly expresses to us that we are not meant to be alone. God saw that Adam was alone and literally says that it is not good. It was not good for Adam to be alone, so he created Eve. Our community, though it is brand new, has completely transformed our faith lives, and we are so incredibly grateful for it, especially with this crazy time of our 20s. We are in desperate need of community. And so next week on Two Trees in a Pod, we are going to be exploring the struggles of your 20s, from being in a different place than your friends to realizing that you now have to work for the next 40 years of your life without stopping. We can't wait to talk about this with you, and we hope that you have a wonderful week and that you stay blessed.